once every few cycles, it seems like we get one of these crazy athletic wing prospects with like shot making chops and like questionable defense and feel. And I feel like they usually don't kind of get the nuance they deserved in terms of how their athleticism works and how their scoring game works and how their limitations work. And I think Cam Whitmore is no difference, especially after kind of a slow start with his injury and getting accustomed to playing. I think there is a lot of depth to his game, but like the other guys, like Anthony Edwards, like obviously different, like Jalen Green types, like Wiggins, Josh Jackson types, like there is something in common with all of these guys, and it is the like insane powerful athleticism. And in terms of pure explosion, both vertically and horizontally, I think Cam Whitmore is the best of all of these guys. Like his speed to power in the air is absolutely incredible. Like his ability to win from a standstill, get low to the ground, and then explode in traffic off of 1 and 2 feet is ridiculous. Not only, off of his own drives, but again, he's able to get his own rebounds and just make insane plays like that. Attacking closeouts is going to be easy for him. This little hop step is really, really cool. This is like a Zion type move. Just like the powerful 2-foot jump hop that covers so much ground in such a quick manner. And Cam, takes a tough shot, gets fouled. Like I said, these kind of guys generally struggle with the passing, aren't going to be the types to make these like easy kickouts at this stage in their careers. But the athletic tools are just bonkers. Look at that hang time floating in midair, as Cam Whitmore likes to do. He is a demon attacking off the catch. As we'll get into more, he's more off ball than a guy like Anthony Edwards, who we're going to talk about a lot more. But his ability to attack off the catch, like look how much space like he's given. Like he's a good shooter, so they don't give him space, but like this is a pretty like weak closeout, and Cam is still able to burn by it, hop off of 2 feet this time. When he's off of 2 feet, obviously we saw him rise off of 1 foot and slam it home. But when he rises off of 2, man, he can hang and contort and move his body and make these kind of wild, crazy finishes basically whenever he wants. And also because he's like, this Villanova off-ball player, more than Jalen Green or Anthony Edwards or, more like college Wiggins, who we'll talk about. He is an awesome cutter. His speed and timing and obviously the powerful vertical explosion once he gets to the rim and finishes there is all just so freaking impressive. It is really, really phenomenal. And like a lot of these guys like Wiggins and Josh Jackson and Jaylen Brown, not like Jalen Green, his handle is a problem, but I don't think it's like a damning problem at all. Whitmore has this kind of common problem where it seems like his body like moves too fast for his handle, where he makes a really nice double cross here. He lowers his shoulder, he explodes. This is such an explosive stance, planting that back foot, lowering the shoulder to get parallel, generate leverage. And then he just the ball slips out because his handling control just isn't at that level yet. It also just kind of limits what he can do. Cam is very left drive heavy. Like he always drives left. Just because it seems like he's more comfortable driving towards that side. And because he's can't hold on to the dribble, to his handle here, he's scared off and isn't really going to be comfortable attacking into the middle against a nail or a shaded defense, when with his athleticism, he could probably pretty easily, as we saw before, take a big hop step into the middle of the paint, collapse, and then kick out. But this is not something he's really comfortable with at this point. Again, obviously, he's going to nail a beautiful step back. Wait, no, he misses. I don't know why I thought he made that. Yeah, he's going to take a step back three. But again, we see he kind of generates an advantage with his flexibility, with his burst. But Cam stumbles a bit, loses the ball, and has to settle for a tougher shot, which, admittedly is a shot that he's making, but it's not as good as a drive to the rim given his caliber there. This is kind of what made him exciting in high school, though. And I think there's definitely reason to believe in his handling growth. Especially in high school, I think there was more of this ability to use that power. This is not really a handling clip, but just the 2-foot explosion and power, just ridiculous. But there was kind of just a know-how of how to use his handle with the way he creates leverage and the way his body moves so fluidly for someone that powerful, like a quick little in and out cross to get inside his defender and draw a foul there. As well, he was and is comfortable with these quick right to left crossovers. Again, getting to his left side, finishing with the offhand. And he was really good at getting low with that crossover. I think this is my favorite example of the flexibility in maybe this whole clip. That is really impressive movement for a giant 6'7", powerful, fast wing that he can get this low. And obviously, like, the handling control is just less of an issue at this level because the defenders aren't as long and athletic and haven't given him as many problems. But I do think it's definitely fixable. As we see Anthony Edwards, there are a lot of players like there are players like him, and this is just like a query of underclassmen who shot a bunch of threes and made a bunch of dunks just as like a proxy for like the athletic shot maker types. And we see Anthony Edwards, we see like Matherin types, Bridges, like a lot of these guys who, like, obviously Malik Monk was smaller but an absolute hooper. Anthony Edwards especially, someone who, like Cam, shot a bunch of threes, wasn't a great free throw shooter. He shot way more long twos, which is one of the big things. Had better assist to turnover too, but similar to Cam Whitmore again, who shoots a good amount of threes. I think that's like 10 plus per 100. Isn't a great free throw shooter. His steal rate's way higher. And one difference as well is that we see Cam is about half or more of his shots assisted, which is, a product of scheme and his skills as well. Whereas Anthony Edwards in his draft year was much more of a self-created player. And those long twos are a big difference, which, I'll kind of get back to in a little bit. But Ant in college was a really bad handler. Like, he would just lose the ball all the time, like with absolutely no pressure, or he wouldn't be able to kind of execute his counters as well, or he didn't have any counters to execute and was very liable to getting the ball poked out. Even like when he was guarded by bigs on switches, he didn't really have the comfortable, stable handle to get past his defenders and make use of his crazy athletic tools. But in the NBA, we see that, Anthony Edwards in his third year is a borderline all-star. And a lot of that is because of his increased handling comfortability. You can see he's able to stop and then start again using his left-hand dribble to kind of get into this little floater range. I mean, this is a far cry from what Anthony Edwards was doing in college just a couple years ago. That handling has obviously opened up his passing game as well, where just like Cam Whitmore, Ant was a pretty bad passer in college. Like, he was very tunnel vision-y, didn't make high-level reads like that. But now he's able to use his handle to stay in jail, hold the defender, and throw a beautiful little laydown to Rudy Gobert there. And that handle as well, the ability to keep his dribble alive, which is something that he was bad at in college, and something that basically everyone is bad at in college, is picking up your dribble too early. Because especially someone like Ant and Cam Whitmore and Jaylen Brown and those guys who aren't crazy processors, they really relish this extra dribbling time so they can keep their options open, read the floor, and make a good decision, which Ant has improved much as in his time. And just like Cam Whitmore, as we'll get to, Ant always was and is amazing at creating separation for his jumpers, this little snatch, the east-west stuff. And while Ant's handle isn't perfect and it's not elite by any means, it is good enough to open up what he needs to do. And that's the thing with these kind of these crazy athletic guys. Like, most of them aren't going to have amazing handles like Jalen Green. His handles needs to be good enough to allow him to utilize that crazy burst and flexibility and to be able to execute all these explosive moves that they want to do without losing the ball. I think Cam was in a good spot to do that. Andrew Wiggins was another example of like this crazy, highly touted athletic wing who really ended up being more of an off-ball player. And I think, like, on the Wiggins-Ant spectrum, I think Cam's, like, right in the middle, basically. Obviously, Wiggins has turned into, like, an off-ball like an awesome like off-ball complementary piece in Golden State, like someone who's played at a borderline all-star level, but really couldn't get like separation and make use of his athleticism on the ball, but obviously off the ball can, you know, let that power and explosion shine. I think Cam, while probably because of his raw handling creativity in terms of movement, will probably allow him to play more on ball, but I think like when the handle gets a little better, he's going to be most deadly attacking off of movement and coupling that with his shooting, which is really, really impressive for a guy of his athletic tools. It's a similar profile that we see again, where it's just like a ton of volume without necessarily making a ton or having great free throw. But that is the most important indicators. Like age and volume really matters so much. And being like a guy who didn't really shoot well, didn't have any great indicators, but took a ton of threes. And I think Cam is similar, though probably a little overrated as a shooting prospect to me, just because he doesn't really take like he's not really versatile aside from catch and shoots and like the pull-ups. That's the main flag, but I do think it's quite good, the versatility and the general pull-up shot making he's had since he was in high school. Again, I mean, the NBA range was always clear for him, and that has shown at Villanova. Like that's, you know, arguably been his most impressive thing, is his ability to pull from kind of anywhere and to create his own shot off of the dribble. And when you couple the ability to hit sidestep threes like this, his footwork on these is great. He loves this little, you know, cross sidestep hop three. When you combine that with his ability to drive and to create offense downhill, then you have the kind of beginnings of a very scary scoring and creating threat. And another difference between Cam and a lot of the other guys like Jalen and Jalen Green and Jalen Brown, Jalen Green, is that Cam's defensive ceiling I think is way higher. I think he's a way better defensive prospect. He is pretty regularly making some like really ridiculous rotations and contests where he'll use his speed and his verticality to cover a lot of ground and to make a really impressive big rotation at the rim for some absolutely nasty blocks and contests. Like this is not stuff that most prospects of his age and like scoring pedigree with the athleticism do. But he's doing it with decent regularity. He's like 3.5 block rate, which is really good for his role. There are obviously lots of inconsistencies and growing pains where he's just, you know, has bad closeouts and he's really clunky turning his feet and his hips aren't moving. But there are also kind of moments and flashes where his feet are really, really moving and he's showing that ability to flip his hips, stay attached, decelerate, and, you know, contest with his athleticism. So I think there's real defensive ceiling there. I think Cam Whitmore is still like very clearly like a top 6, 5, you know, maybe even 4 candidate in this draft. These guys just seem to have such high hit rates, the explosive, powerful downhill athletes with real shot making prowess. And Cam is bigger than basically all of them at like a true 6'7". I think he's the most athletic in terms of pure speed and explosion out of all of them. And you combine that with his great flexibility and his, you know, really great strength, that I think he could still continue to unlock. That there is a lot here. And even, you know, if the feel and the handle never get to crazy levels, I think if they're good enough to supplant the scoring, then Cam can be absolutely can be a star. And it's crazy that he's a guy who could like reasonably go 6th or 7th in a draft like this.